Moscow's naval forces have been operating with impunity. Beneath the waves and across contested waters, Russian vessels have been conducting operations that NATO has watched with growing alarm. Submarines appear where they shouldn't be. Surface ships linger suspiciously over critical infrastructure. The Kremlin has enjoyed watching Western nations scramble to respond. That era just ended. Two nations have decided enough is enough. Britain and Norway just unveiled a partnership so significant, so powerful, that Vladimir Putin is now facing a strategic nightmare in waters he thought he controlled. This isn't diplomacy. This is a naval blockade in the making. Today, you're going to discover why Russia's undersea dominance just evaporated. December 3rd marked a turning point in North Atlantic security. Britain's leader delivered an address that sent ripples through Moscow's naval headquarters. Prime Minister Keir Starmer didn't mince words when revealing the new Anglo-Norwegian alliance. His statement carried a warning that couldn't be misunderstood. Moscow's vessels are appearing in our territorial waters with increasing frequency. International cooperation becomes essential for safeguarding our sovereignty. The language he chose next deserves special attention. This unprecedented accord with our Norwegian partners enhances our capacity to defend our maritime borders and the vital infrastructure upon which our societies depend. That word, unprecedented, wasn't hyperbole. What London and Oslo have constructed represents something entirely new in their bilateral relationship. The specifics are staggering. A minimum of 13 advanced warships will soon operate in the maritime corridor, stretching from Greenland through Iceland to the British Isles. These aren't general-purpose vessels. Every single one has been engineered specifically for hunting submarines. The message couldn't be clearer. Russian underwater assets are the target. Oslo has committed no fewer than 5 vessels to this initiative. London will deploy 8 more. Those figures represent baseline commitments. Both governments have indicated additional ships could join the flotilla. The Type 26 frigate serves as the backbone of this operation, and that choice reveals everything about the mission's true purpose. The patrol zone carries enormous significance. Military strategists refer to this maritime region as the GIUK Gap, using an acronym derived from Greenland, Iceland, and the United Kingdom. Most civilians have never heard of it. Every Russian admiral knows it intimately. The International Institute for Strategic Studies recently published an analysis highlighting why this particular stretch of ocean matters so profoundly. During the decades following the Soviet collapse, Western powers grew complacent about controlling these waters. Greenland, Iceland, Britain, and their allies assumed the threat had vanished. Moscow never stopped paying attention. Today, the IISS categorizes the GIUK Gap as among NATO's most critical strategic concerns. While it doesn't quite qualify as a choke point in the traditional military sense, its potential to become one exists. More importantly, whoever dominates these waters controls crucial transit routes. The geographical reality favors defenders protecting North Atlantic shipping lanes against threats emerging from northern latitudes. However, the advantage isn't absolute. Forces moving northward from Atlantic positions must also navigate through this maritime corridor. The conditions in these waters are notoriously harsh. Brutal weather, freezing temperatures, and massive swells make operations challenging even for the most capable navies. Putin has nevertheless prioritized preparing his fleet to exploit the GIUK Gap whenever opportunity presents itself. When the Kremlin decides to test NATO's capabilities in this region, submarines become the weapon of choice. October 2019 witnessed something extraordinary. Russia conducted naval exercises in the GIUK Gap on a scale unseen since the Cold War's final years. The war zone documented this operation in detail, revealing that no fewer than 10 Russian submarines participated. 10 submarines, operating simultaneously, in NATO's backyard. Moscow's intentions were transparent. The exercise served as an evaluation of Western detection capabilities. Putin wanted concrete data on how effectively NATO-aligned nations could identify Russian submarines. Response times mattered. Detection methodologies mattered. Every piece of intelligence gathered would inform future operations. The strategic objective extended beyond mere testing. Russia sought to determine whether the GIUK Gap could serve as a gateway for submarines entering the vast expanses of the Atlantic Ocean. Once a submarine reaches Atlantic waters, the sheer size of that ocean makes detection exponentially more difficult compared to the relatively confined GIUK Gap. Britain bears responsibility for constructing the Type 26 frigates, which means London will also handle crew training protocols. The Royal Navy possesses institutional knowledge about operating these vessels that Norway's forces need to acquire. Royal Marines will undergo year-round Arctic warfare training, according to Euromaidan Press. This training won't happen in simulation facilities or temperate climates. British forces will train in Norway itself, experiencing firsthand the brutal conditions they'll face during actual operations. Joint wargaming exercises between British and Norwegian units will ensure tactical coordination reaches the highest possible levels. London has agreed to participate in an existing Norwegian program focused on developing support vessels for undersea systems. This includes uncrewed vessels designed for mine hunting operations, a capability that could prove crucial if Russia attempts to mine the GIUK Gap. Newsweek confirmed additional elements of the partnership. The Arctic training Royal Marines receive will specifically prepare them for the extreme cold temperatures characterizing the operational environment. Britain's Ministry of Defense has announced plans to equip its surface vessels with Norwegian-manufactured cruise missiles. These details reveal something crucial. This isn't a single program. This is comprehensive military integration between two NATO members who have decided that stopping Russia's submarine threat requires total commitment. Britain and Norway are becoming military partners in ways that exceed any previous collaboration in their history. Britain and Norway have committed to deploying over a dozen submarine hunting warships into the GIUK Gap. Multiple strategic calculations drive this decision, beginning with the gap's inherent importance. We've explored how Russia could exploit the GIUK Gap to push submarines into Atlantic and Arctic waters. The UK Defence Journal expands this analysis by examining Britain's historical relationship with the Gap. Britain built its reputation as a dominant naval power partly through controlling this maritime corridor. Minding the Gap prevented foreign powers from launching naval invasions against the British Isles. Combined with Britain's control over Gibraltar at the Mediterranean's entrance, this positioning historically meant only France, Portugal, and Spain could threaten Britain via naval forces from Europe. All three nations are now British allies. Russia stands as Britain's sole European adversary. Consequently, minding the Gap has regained critical strategic importance. Beyond submarine detection, Britain intends to use Type 26 frigates as an early warning network. Should Russia's Navy attempt to use the Gap to launch attacks on Britain, these frigates would signal for reinforcements long before Russian vessels could reach British shores. The GIUK Gap lost significance in British naval thinking after the Cold War concluded. Putin's actions have returned it to center stage as a major strategic region. Moscow's enhanced submarine capabilities and hybrid warfare tactics have brought the GIUK Gap and anti-submarine warfare back to the center stage of naval strategic considerations in the European theater, the UK Defence Journal concludes. Britain must return to guarding the GIUK Gap. Failure to do so leaves the nation vulnerable to Russia's submarine force. Norway's participation in collectively defending the Gap demonstrates that multiple Western European powers view Russia as a major threat. Britain's World notes that Russia operates large submarine fleets divided across its northern, Baltic, Pacific, and Black Sea naval forces. These submarines form the foundation of Russian naval power. Moscow continues introducing sophisticated new designs, including the nuclear-powered Yasin-M guided missile submarines. Many Russian submarines carry nuclear weapons, creating an existential threat if NATO loses track of their positions. Deploying Type 26 frigates represents Britain and Norway's attempt to neutralize what may be Russia's most valuable naval asset. At minimum, that asset can be neutralized within the GIUK Gap, making it far more difficult for Russia to deploy submarines into Atlantic waters. Both Britain and Norway have experienced Russia's naval aggression and Putin's increasing reliance on hybrid warfare tactics recently. Newsweek reports that Britain has detected a 30% surge in threatening Russian vessel activity within British-controlled waters over the past 2 years. Norway confronts similar challenges while also sharing a 120-mile land border with Russia. This makes deploying an effective deterrent against Russian submarines even more critical for Norwegian national security. The Times documented at least 42 instances of Russian ships appearing in British waters between 2022 and January 2025, with many additional incidents occurring since. Britain clearly has compelling reasons to demonstrate to Putin that unrestricted naval operations won't be tolerated. A powerful response became necessary. The Type 26 frigates that Britain and Norway will send into the GIUK Gap represent exactly that type of response. The partnership between Britain and Norway represents a watershed moment in North Atlantic security. For years, Russia's submarines have operated with relative freedom in waters they had no right to enter. Moscow's hybrid warfare tactics have targeted critical infrastructure with impunity. That era is ending. 13 Type 26 frigates, equipped with world-leading surveillance technology, will soon patrol the GIUK Gap. Russia's submarines will face detection systems that can track 800 objects simultaneously across distances exceeding 200,000 meters. Acoustic stealth will minimize the frigate's own signatures, while towed sonar arrays hunt for Russian underwater assets. The timeline isn't immediate. Years remain before full deployment. But Putin now knows what's coming. The GIUK Gap will transform from exploitable waters into a maritime fortress defended by two determined NATO members who have decided Russia's naval provocations must stop. Moscow's submarine advantage is evaporating, the Type 26 is coming, and Russia's undersea dominance is about to face its greatest challenge. If this deep dive into Anglo-Norwegian naval strategy revealed information you hadn't seen elsewhere, hit that like button and subscribe to The Military Show. We're breaking down the strategic competitions and military developments that mainstream coverage misses. Drop a comment. Do you think the Type 26 frigates will be enough to stop Russia's submarine threat? Or is Moscow already developing countermeasures? The battle for control of the GIUK Gap is just beginning. Stay informed. Stay ahead of the story. I'll see you in the next one.